It's the CVAL College Championships here, Jackson, and once again, we're on for another broadcast and another best of three that could very well determine any of the teams that can make it to their finals down in Raleigh. Can either of these two teams we have on this series do it? Time will tell. It's a testament to their strengths and maybe more so to their weaknesses now being on broadcast and being very much so VOD reviewable. But before we touch on the teams themselves, let's touch on everything else, all the highlights of CVAL and how this goes down. Let's talk about our prizing, which is really what the players are looking forward to.
Yeah, all of these teams fighting for that scholarship. First place getting $16,000 per team. Nice little chunk of change for some textbooks, maybe some room and board for the year for each of these players. Now, that is a huge difference coming from first to second place because you lose about half of that scholarship, only getting about $8,000. Meanwhile, third and fourth still coming a little bit close to second. So first is definitely where these teams want to be, Scott.
Yeah, also the ability to go into a LAN as well. For a lot of these teams, they're not really afforders to the idea of a LAN, right? You had NACE that just went down. I actually think Winthrop just returned from that, right? So they had been playing in person a lot, and they'd like to be able to do so again, especially for a chance at that big trophy that we got to see so lovingly last semester, or sorry, 2 semesters ago, technically, for college players. 1 year, 11 months to the day, basically. They're really excited to, have a chance once again to foam at the mouth for it. And Tamu's making their run. They're moving through their top of the bracket, but time will tell if they're capable of repeating and getting all the way through there again. Let's throw it on over to how the format works out. You'll see we have an upper and a lower bracket side. If you're in the upper, you technically can lose and still drop down to the lower. If you were in the lower, teams like Converse, teams like UCF, they got knocked out, made it to get a little bit farther than they had previously, but if you're in the lower and you lose, you are out, Jackson, and that's unfortunately just the state of the format for this season. And then for all those upper teams, they at least get a little bit of a break, can make a mistake here or there. And against really good teams, it's hard to make any mistakes and not be capitalized upon. But that's just really how it goes. And for that upper side, let's go ahead and take a look at how that's panned out to this point. It's been a pretty major affair, honestly. Winthrop is torn through the entire upper side. This is the broadcast we have here today for you all. Winthrop versus Harrisburg Storm. Tamu managed to get it through West Virginia University, who had a great series in the first best of 3 last Saturday, just a week ago, against CSP Blue. Maryville got through Cumberland, of all things, which is the series that we had against Baker, a team that Cumberland had managed to beat them a couple of times prior, but Maryville got the better end of them, not just this week in CVAL for the championship, but also as well through for all of NACE, and actually managed to take it through, I think, for pretty much every title that they had there. So they are on very high rope right now overall, Jackson. They're very content with themselves. And then that St. Clair versus Fisher game still has to go down to see who will be facing off against Maryville. The upper has been quite a showcase, to say. We'll throw it over to the lower.
Yeah, coming into the lower bracket now, this is it. If you get kicked out of the lower bracket, that's it. No more chances for you right now. And we've seen some pretty strong teams here this year. I mean, Northwood has been struggling a little bit throughout this season, also most of last season, but still a perennial powerhouse that you can't sleep on. So taking a look now, you got the West Virginia University and UST as well trying to play for their last chances coming up next week. The loser of today's game is going to get knocked down here into the lowers, and I believe they will be in the whoever wins the Baker versus the SJSU matchup. So neither one of these teams that are playing today between Winthrop or Harrisburg want to get knocked down to the lower, Scott, because after that, it's one and done.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting series in front of us, especially when we've talked a little bit about how we predicted the map bans to go down, and shockingly enough, we were kind of correct about it. But as you can see, it's Winthrop versus Harrisburg, the Storm versus Winthrop. I think this is going to be a very good series, especially when we talk about the maps and we get further down into that. I predicted going into this that I was expecting to see Lotus, expecting to see Haven. That was also in your docket. And then the third one that I was just kind of throwing out there was Icebox, because I didn't think that Storm would be super into playing this map, but they actually went for the Fracture ban, as that was left in the second ban phase, and they go, okay, we got to take our pick of the litter. We really don't want to have to deal with Fracture. And for Winthrop, who is an exceptional team, probably should have known that Storm wanted to ban this map as well. It was really just taking the worst of the two. They got against St. Clair, I think they lost 12 rounds in the first half. They got completely flawless for like a 13-2 total split. They kind of got a little bit lucky having a Singet banned, but overall their Icebox isn't super great either. So that decider is going to be something that I think Winthrop are likely to be favored for. So you got to play a really competent first 2 maps. And I think both Haven and Lotus are good for Storm, and Winthrop also as well, very good considering the teams that they take it down, like Fisher Navy, who actually beat them on a couple of these maps prior in the semifinal, the upper bracket semifinal for the NECC. And then they turned it around into the finals as they got back in there through the lower side with a forfeit victory against UCF. They managed to beat them on those same maps, and that's really goes to what I think Winthrop are really good at. They're unbelievably impressive about learning from their mistakes and turning those into positive points in a second rematch, or even just throughout a single series. They'll notice how you play on one map and then completely change it for the second map to shut that down, and it basically forces you to turn into what VALORANT should be, a game of adaptability. The team that adapts the fastest tends to win the fastest.
And these teams are no strangers to each other. I mean, they've played each other time and time again throughout their careers. And each time, it's been Winthrop that has come out on top. Well, although this time around, I do expect Harrisburg to have a little bit of an advantage, perhaps just finally adapting to those strategies, like you said. But also, looking at the map pick, them having the pick advantage really helps them out here. They're a very strong team at Haven, where Winthrop, they're pretty good at Haven, but it doesn't seem as if they can convert as much as Harrisburg does. So if they take that early, like 1-0 lead, then it becomes a bit more difficult for Winthrop to try and win back-to-back games, especially on a map like Lotus, where Harrisburg is also good, right? Winthrop is amazing at Lotus, but Harrisburg is no joke over there on Lotus. So if they're able to take that map 2, this brings it over to map 3, which again, Winthrop is very, very strong at. However, I think at this point, if you get to Icebox, it's not as if Harrisburg is a pushover at Icebox either. They've only lost to super strong teams on Icebox. So at this point, maybe if it's not adapting to Winthrop, just adapting to the map itself and how it's played, because it's honestly just slam A most of the time and lurk B, right? At some point, that's got to come, predictable for Harrisburg.
Yeah, the crazy part about Icebox is even though it is predictable and you know the strategy is like just hit A as often as you can, you still lose it, right? That's the
Yeah.
crazy part about Icebox. It's an enigma in the scene for map pool. But in terms of agent selection, there's a lot of guesses we can make. The thing about Storm is they do actually like to bring out for Haven no Tejo. They don't like to bring that a new initiator into the pool. Winthrop though very much so do like to bring that. They like the Cypher, the Omen, the Tejo, the Breach, and the Yoru. So they like to bring in a little bit of that new, really aggressive, almost hyperfixation style for this map. And for a lot of teams, that works really efficiently. And you can see things like Neon and ISO being played together as well, really successfully for this map. But for Storm, they play very close to the chest. You know, Omen and Neon. Neon has been fairly good overall for this. You turn that over then to Cypher and Sova. You have your initiator, but you also go, hey, we want to Breach in as well, who's super powerful for this map. There's a lot of different ways to break down how that double initiator is going to play out. But comparing the Sova and comparing the Tejo, it leaps and bounds levels of difference, especially when you're deferring your duelist choice as well between the Neon and the Yoru. A bit of a smoke and dagger style compared to the heavy sprint in. The Sova needs to be there really helping out on that dash in for your Neon, and yet Yoru could just TP to the back, pass the salvos into where they would have forced the players to move, comboed with that Tejo. But we're starting to get players in the lobby, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break before we get actually into the series. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more to see how this goes down. We are back and we will officially get this series started and underway. Nobody is having any problems. The teams are ready and raring to go. And if we talk a little bit more about our map ban selection and maybe the agents that come into this one, Jackson, I do think this will be a fairly even matchup, but the issue is going to be the last time these teams did face off, which majority of them did go to Winthrop's side, we're all back in 2024, right? Like they didn't have much history in comparison to each other in recent memory. So there's going to be a lot of adjustments that need to be made. But for Winthrop, those players have a lot of history, right? You can look at so many of the places they played, the performances they've had, the individuals, whether they're playing on Winthrop or they're on a T2 team or just in a semi scene, right? Like they have so much reviewable history that you are almost really concerned and should be concerned at this level of the scene that they'll know exactly how that player will want to play. And you're again going to have to constantly adapt. And I think if you've gotten this far in the championship run, you are going to be good enough to secure that spot by VOD reviewing and preparing, hyper fixating on specific players like Nasi, who I still think is possibly one of the best initiators on all of Collegiate. And I've been saying that now for like 2+ years. They're really hard to counterplay against.
The duel of Nasi and Infiltrator, the setups that they're able to get for Infiltrator to go in and get these first bloods. This guy averages about like 18 first bloods at every best of 3 series, which is kind of insane, opening a lot of area for their team to work with. My only concern is, I mean, this is a team that plays everywhere. They're well known. They just finished Orlando. How are they gonna, mentally readjust to all of that ping difference that now they have to deal with? I don't know. Maybe we have some sponsors that can help out with that. Who knows?
We'll talk a little bit more about that at halftime, but you get a little bit of a sneak peek in the bottom right of your screen here as to what we're talking about. And hopefully we don't have the same issues that were plaguing us overall just last week. So maybe they have checked out their sponsors and we won't run into the ping problems that were possibly even giving that first map right on Pearl over and forcing OT in the first place, because that was a crazy affair. But for Haven, a lot of the times one of the things we talk about is how big Cypher is as an agent, and for the lurk potential that you have, and knowing that a lot of teams, it really feels like in the championship right now, aren't really rocking Cypher for the map. I think St. Clair was one of the teams that kind of shocked me. They actually like to bring the KJ instead. That's like, it's such an oddity to me, but if it works for the team, it can really work. Thankfully, both of these teams still like to bring out, for the most part, Cypher a lot of times, though we do see Winthrop has shifted over, bringing instead of that Cypher, teasing Iron over for the Killjoy, which again, St. Clair had used, works pretty well. You recently faced them as well, so maybe you saw something there that you were kind of like, ooh, this could be pretty good. I actually think that's Harrisburg. Flip those around. You had that previous scene. You were looking at it going, okay, maybe this is pretty good. So I love the idea of employing something on the fly, more recently off the cuff, in hopes that it can really shut things down. But the weird question in my mind is going to be, since you have double initiators, Nasi is likely going to be closer to something like the Sova for your initiator. The Breach would be the choice since they have the Teo. Flare is going to be that Teo player, and Flare, a lot of the times for Teo, it feels like, Jackson, for things like Lotus, they are going to be a heavy fragger, but for Haven, they don't really turn into that. They are sitting bottom of the pack. They have to stay alive. They're prioritizing their life, see long holds, making sure the salvos are constantly there and recharging. It's a much different style of play in comparison, while on A and B side for things like Lotus, they can get up into their face. The salvos are a little bit less important for post plants, instead for like C on Lotus, where it actually is really important. Meanwhile, for this map, it feels like everywhere you're going to need to keep that Tejo alive to find a major value for the team, and Flare's role and responsibility does leave them typically towards the bottom of that scoreboard.
Yeah, Haven's just a tough map for all of the initiators to hold, because you have to get that early information and try to suss out exactly where the attack is going. Because if you don't, it's so easy to get flooded on most of the sites on Haven, namely like C. Once the attacking team starts executing on C, it's a flood. Utilities being thrown left and right, and nowadays meta is utility that kills. So you really have to stay alive if you're holding C, and that doesn't really give you much room to frag out as much as you normally do on other maps.
Well, start to set up here for an early round success. You're playing the macro game for the Old Orb economy. You also have one player hiding within a dark cover. That's Ian just trying to ensure that they have maybe some sort of denial for an A-long push. Sentry drone going in too. That's plenty of information for Flare. can maybe use that as a chance to capitalize in for a second kill, but they're stalling inside Garage because look at the rush that's coming out now on the offense. Harrisburg want to go quickly into sight. They've now gotten full control off towards Platt. Want to engage there for one. Do get it, though they trade Nasi and now moves in the same fell swoop. So you have a player disadvantage, though, in a post-plant scenario, and you still have a player poking and prodding off towards B. They need to start to transgress back in towards site, but thankfully you get a player down C-Long. Flare locks off Shadow's head, wanting more from Infiltrator, but there's Ian who has that flank because you weren't able to secure the kill if you were Ollie, and now Ollie's all alone. 1v3 dusts away Hijinks, but the two more lying down through C-Long are not really a high possibility to take. The dark cover to try to buy time. Sticks this now to half, wants to just stay on it, and Ian will punish them for doing so. Round one will fall to Harrisburg, but Winthrop, I mean, they got the Ult Orb Economy 1, and they'll be happy with the results. Still getting a lot of success in that plant down for some credits.
Yeah, beautifully done by Harrisburg there. It seems that they got the C Orb pretty early to try and get the rotations to bite onto that C push. So we take a look at these replay here. Very well done in that post-plant situation, gathering all that they need from all angles. But going back to the execute, they grabbed the orb on C-Long just to try and pull some early rotations. Immediately started showing over on that A site to make Winthrop kind of over-rotate back towards A before finally hitting C. Just a really strong push and pull execution right there.
There's a little battle once again for the ult orb. Will likely be a constant thing here for the Storm. They do look like they're still primed to go ahead and take C. KJ can be a little bit more active around the utility in comparison to a Cypher. You lay the tripwire down, and just when a player walks into it, you now know, and the team can use that as a pivot point to go, okay, let's engage fast either this side or this site and find our way forward. KJs have to be a little bit more active around that utility. The turret goes off, you know, alarm bot goes off, whatever the case, you want to try to fight with that, work with that, and get yourself a kill. And that works for Ian, too. Immediate here for the Storm, and I guess it's an aggressive idea for Winthrop. They wanted to play alongside it, but it falls apart, and now it's a 2 versus 5, and he found a 0 kills and only a little bit of damage off. Maybe hoping that Ollie could deal enough to deal with the end and use that as a capitulating point to say, well, we got one weapon dropped. Let's try to make that 2 with that Bulldog, but they're not letting them anywhere near to him, and Ollie is completely trapped in this mid window, just fighting for time as they're being flanked now from multiple sides, one from attacker spawn, a Paranoia out, flush to the corner, all of the util sent towards them, and Winthrop, well, that's another round lost for him as you'd expect for a 2-0 start.
Yeah, nothing really left for Ali to do there besides kick the bucket. And I want to point out the positioning coming out from the side of Harrisburg. They expected an aggressive play coming out from Winthrop, knowing that it was a pistol rounds and perhaps they wanted to stack and push the sites before Harrisburg can even get anything set up. But instead what they did was Harrisburg let Ian kind of lurk and listen for information. Once they heard that there were 3 trying to push A lobby from the defense, it was immediately rotate to C, knowing that it would be the weak site, and they were able to get that easy fight down there. Pretty much a flawless round right there.
Once again, the exact same thing from Storm. They're just going to line themselves up towards C-Long and play the macro battle for the ult orbs, which is intelligent because no one from Winthrop is going to contest that. They have too much respect for the players and that man count that's going to be playing into it. And they're likely going to wait until they can likely get something like an operator online where they can then counter with utility and then play for the free one-shot kill, shut down a player, get an early man advantage, and just try to trickle in the advantage on man count as best as possible. But Storm have been so successful on C, and they're not looking to stop this anytime soon. 3 players towards Garage, still 2 lagging back off towards attacker spawn. Having Garage control is nice and dandy, but Winthrop are fine to let them have that. It's a question of what they're going to do now towards B, as these 3 players now walk their way up towards Rabbit, and just outside the archway of this B side, and here comes the util. Quick dash in, chance for Huso to go for more. There's your little bit of a stun. The relay bolt to Nasi, no way to survive it, and that's 2 actually for the Storm. Shutting down these Winthrop defenders, and the B site as a whole is now theirs for the taking, and at 5-on-3.
Beautifully done there, Jay. They made some noise over in Garage trying to take out the tripwire, and that really put Winthrop in a very anxious position. Huso finds one onto a flare. Are they able to clean up? Infiltrator will get 1 constellation kill, but it's going to be a 1v4, and it's not enough. Harrisburg gonna get that bonus round, which is huge right now on a map like Haven, as you get to snowball this momentum. But back to the execute there, because they were able to extend utility and break the tripwire over in Garage, this puts so much pressure on who is this? Nasi here, because they needed to watch that garage angle. They needed to commit bodies to re-clearing garage on defense. And lo and behold, on that timing, as they were watching garage, that is exactly when Harrisburg flooded B and immediately just threw so much utility into that backside, and Nasi was not really able to even get a shot off.
Compare also the initiation choice. You got Jeffy, who's rocking out the Sova, which means you have a Recon Bolt and Shock Darts to clear corners. Recon Bolt forces lines of sight and crosshairs away from where players will likely be standing. Compare that to a Tejo for Flare for Winthrop. This is a player, this is a role, an operator that's there to force players to move into places that are more advantageous for you. They're not able to do that super well on defense, which is, again, why we see a lot of the times Teos can struggle, and it's really needs to be a bit more active, but sometimes you're forced to play bassive. Ollie, though, trapped here, both towards back plat. Hustle will try to rush them, though huge frag by moves, alongside the damage from Ollie on the rush forward and the paranoia through that dark cover. Shots are connecting for Nasi once more, and bad spot to be for Hijinks, but a Shrouded Step does get you out of the danger zone, but that spike is left up now within that Cypher cage, and I believe that Winthrop are aware of that, but it's still collectible through, and unfortunately that means that Winthrop will have to play now towards an opposing site unless we still see the commit from Storm, because Ian does get a nice shot from in that garage hall to shut down a player in back plat. And though you do still have a man advantage for Winthrop, those players don't really have the best of weapons because they're refusing to step back towards C to collect the ones that were dropped by the offense.
30 seconds left.
See the rotations coming out. Ian trying to see if they can catch a free pick here, but Hijinks already made their way over onto the A site. They're gonna start the plant. They got to make sure that he is able to get back in time to cover, because Nasi is already there, now pushing into heaven. The retake's going to come from a two-prong attack. Going to be a 3v2. Plants down in default, and we do see Hijinks playing in that held position. They are going to get spotted out by the drone, and the utility comes out. Ian there to support with the crossfire angle. Hijinks finds one as well. Now Flare takes down Ian in the 1v1 just as the Bucky with the jump shot takes down Hijinks there to get the thrifty.
Keep in mind that Infiltrator had that before, right? So they had dropped it and recollected. This is Winthrop doing what Winthrop needs to do to find themselves back into the first few rounds of this after letting up round 3. And they do it in a pretty dominant fashion. The shutdown for utility on C, making sure that Huso can be as effective as they have been previously. And again, so much of what we're seeing from the Storm is going to be reliant on that duelist diff. The smoke and dagger kind of style we see from Winthrop with the Yoru, the Neon has to be up in your face. It has to be confrontational. And if you let them go crazy, if you let them get these kills, you're going to pay the price at the end of this. And Huso, they'll do enough when needed to force players to look separate ways, but as long as they can keep this player in the bottom of the scoreboard, make sure they're not finding effective kills, make sure they're not able to close these gaps really well, we expect to see the Storm start to struggle a bit more, as Infiltrator can't TP out in time with all the stuns going their way.
Wow.
And it goes now too heavy-handed off towards the Harrisburg side.
Easier said than done, trying to keep Huso down in the bottom of the leaderboard, as their team is also there to support them and set them up on these cross-side fire angles. I think the previous round they just overcooked slightly. Nasi not able to hit the shots. Shadow there to trade out. Ali finds 2 though, just to thin the numbers up a little bit, but it may be a little too late as they are down to a 1v3. Economy really hurting on the side of Winthrop right now, so they may have to try and save or play exits. Nice little flick there onto Ian, and this changes things now. 1v2 potentially could try and get the tap, but time not on their side. And I think eventually they are going to have to try and save this.
Yeah, do you fall back here if you're Ali? I think you can just go and touch this. It's not too big of a problem for you. The Recon Bolt into the dark cover as well, which is another great point here for having a Silver for this map. And Ali will just go ahead and try to escape back towards defender spawn, make it out in time, though teasing to grab a different Vandal skin for some reason. Could have cost them, but not too big of a problem. It'll be another round win for Harrisburg.
It's the
Riot,
right,
very successful one at that. I think if you take off a round loss in an eco, Jackson, you turn that over to the 5th and you just say, let's do what we do best. Let's hit that C site hard and get away with a whole lot towards garage. It doesn't feel like Winthrop really have the retake potential that you need. Yes, the Teo is really good. The salvos can clear out Cubby. It can be super strong, but then your Armageddon is gone. It doesn't matter anyways, and it's a matter of tallying it back up and trying to charge it. And yes, you've been winning the ult orb on A pretty much every single time. No one's fighting that for Harrisburg. It doesn't mean that you're going to be to have that as many times as necessary, because look at how often we've seen Harrisburg hit the C site.
And this looks like Harrisburg really did their homework onto Winthrop, knowing that they like to play that Cypher on Haven, opting to go for the Sova instead, because at this point it is pretty difficult to play Cypher with all of these Sova nerds and their lineups, knowing exactly where you place your tripwires and having those 2 shock darts already destroying one. I mean, Now, Harrisburg also expecting some aggression to come out on the side of Winthrop, just playing it safe, trying to make noise and pull rotations, not really wanting to give up the weapons here. Do see Huso with the overdrive and the Bucky. So I do expect some fast-paced action coming here over on the A site. However, they have been spotted and the rotations are now coming through from Winthrop.
I love you mentioned the Sova nerds. My old line used to say is Sova players always feel like they're going to fail their college classes because they're too busy looking up Sova YouTube tutorial lineups than actually pay attention in their courses. And Nasi was the player I was talking about. Has always been the player I was talking about. It feels like they've never missed a single dart or had any mistakes when they play that Sova. But there are plenty of mistakes to be had. Husos will be the first one in this round for the first loss of life. A Rolling Thunder does get used here by Shadow. No, countered actually. But there's not much you can do when you're trapped here inside of this short A ramp. And with all of the damage going out here by Jeffy, it looked like Harrisburg were going to struggle to get this off in towards site, but they're just going to have more problems thereafter. 8 seconds, red time. You're so close to the corner. Couldn't stop it in time. Just needed to look right there where necessary. And Harrisburg used a lot in that round to get the win, but you get the win, and that's something that Winthrop have not been able to say more than once.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can hit 5 on Haven as soon as you can, I think that's very important. Especially this is an attack-sided map, and both of these teams have attack-heavy composition. So if you're Harrisburg, you really want to make sure you can get all that you can get, guarantee every single round. I think Winthrop played that probably about as best as they could, given the limited weapons that they had. I like the fact that Infiltrator utilized the dimensional rift to just try to stay alive from all the utility. And oh my god, see, Silver nerds, man, they have the wall bangs, they have all the lineups, Scott.
They know what Infiltrator was trying to cook up there, so they're just shutting that down as quick as can be. And what goes better than a Sova and an Odin in hand? I'm not just talking about maps like Ascent, which has received a major nerf, right, with the wall being super solid on B site, but still can be super good on any map. Even take that over to the Lotus. We don't really see Sovas that often. The Odin is still super strong because the whole map is paper mache. You can also do the same thing on paper mache walls for Haven, and we see that just there. And Infiltrator has not had a pretty good game so far in comparison. Needs to make sure they're not the first one to lose their life like they were 2 rounds ago and like they are this round now. And even though they did get the first kill last round, look what that got them, still inevitably to a round loss, as it looks like Harrisburg want to hit towards the B site, but we'll have to get through moves first.
Oh, I like that though from Ali, getting that early info and taking out Hijinks. So that's going to be the controller down. No smokes here on the side of Harrisburg. So they're having trouble entering the site now, as you see. Nasi finds 2. Huso finally gets the trade out, but the numbers are even. They get the plant down, and then now it's a 2v2. The Armageddon is going to come and push them off the spike, but it doesn't catch anyone. Now on the side of Harrisburg, they're pushing into spawn here. Huso's in a really good position to try and see if anyone's coming out of garage. But there's just so many angles that... so many angles, but Ian was just not watching that one, as they're going to get taken down. Now Huso left in this 1v2 do have the advantage of playing the spike, and they're planning for them.
I just feel like KJs have to be a little bit more active around the utility here, so they want to stay on site. They want to stay in a spot that they can contest. And with that being said, they stayed in a spot and peaked a spot they necessarily should not have. Ollie will go ahead and start to stick this now off to half. This is planted poorly overall for a hold in this position here for Huso on Link, connecting off towards C, and they will pay the price for having a spike go down really not where I think they wanted to, but also just not positioning very well for that post plant. And I think maybe Ian saw that, and that's why they were playing so direct onto site. No matter the case, Winthrop will go after a first loss of life from the great shot connection from Jeffy that took down Infiltrator, and recover thanks to Nasi's big 2K here on site. And then, of course, Flair's perfect crosshair placement onto Ian, who just peaked at the wrong time, really worried about B main and needed to worry more about that A link side instead.
And I think a lot of that comes from a great play from Ali, but also a huge mistake coming out from the side of Hijinks, just trying to take these 1v1 fights, knowing that your team is about to execute. You should be placing the smokes down for them, or at least trying to stay alive as long as you can, so because all of that was off the back of Ali and Nasi, able to just swing for free and get those 2 picks.
June gets a bit of information, but the great thing about a Yoru Jackson is they can TP out of there. And most of the time, you'd argue that they're able to do it fairly well, but We saw that failed 3 rounds ago, and we've seen plenty of problems actually since then. Ollie shot all the way from down in long, able to shut down Jeffy. Now do not have a Sova, no information to actively take into this site. Maybe you're hoping that a short player of Ian can shut down the likely shrouded stint up onto the boxes of Ollie, and with that secondary layer of information from the short peek on shorts, you can have Huso swing thereafter, and you even find Hijinks with a frag on top. It's a Winthrop post-plant scenario where they've got to retake arguably the most retakeable objective in all of Valorant, the A site here on Haven, and they're going to do so with a lot of utility. Rolling Thunder, engaging here for the ultimate, a TP by Infiltrator that Huso is ready for, and it's not just 2 in this round, it's 3 and possibly a 4th on the docket, as Nasi has to peek this now alone. Flashed on top, deals with Hijinks, but you want your 4 if you're the Neon of Huso, and you'll get it to get Harrisburg up to 6.
Just asking a little too much of Nasi there at the end. I mean, beautifully done by Harrisburg, right? Very careful, understanding that Ali is very tricky with that shadow step, and teleporting back and forth. That's how they got that first pick, was faking that teleporter into that cubby area and swinging back from main. Now, I think that play from Ali to teleport up onto the short box is a good play because he took down the Sova. There wasn't anyone to really clear him out, but Flair also was not able to get there in time to protect his angle from long, so that ended up being a free pick anyway. And then Harrisburg understanding that Rolling Thunder online for Nasi, just positioning properly and really just stopping the push with a fault line.
So much utility readied out here towards C once again, and Harrisburg went out on the ult orb. There's just no contention from Winthrop, which makes sense. It's another eco round for them, and they can't really comfortably peek nor push. But it's such a consistent factor for Harrisburg that it feels like they're constantly just driving this nail into the coffin of Winthrop. And you could maybe say, okay, well, they're tired. They just came from a LAN. They just came from a big event, and they played a lot of heavy games. But at the same time, Harrisburg know that, and they're foaming at the mouth to be able to shut down a team as good as this and prove that they can be as good, if not better, because they've not had the chance to really face off against them in any capacity so far throughout this year, the 5 months now we've seen of it. But Ollie is up onto the B site. The team has forfeited control off towards C, and you'll have Harrisburg rotate away from there. And while you do have Huso is a little bit trapped, and Neon can just slide away from danger and get quickly off in here towards the B site, where up above is Hijinks, still getting 2 because Infiltrator is slow on the second swing in. The shots just weren't connecting, and you made all that space on C. Might as well take it if you're Harrisburg. They'll plant here once again.
Infiltrator picking up that rifle, finds his pick onto Ian. Infiltrator, don't let him get up rifle in an eco round because he will get their frags. Now trying to turn it around here. 2v2 situation, planted for long. No smokes available on either side, but they do know where the T of Harrisburg is. Spots Heffy, understands that they still have the Odin. Missiles are going to come out online now to try and take them out of that cubby area, but the Hunter's Fury onto the spike, and they have not been able to get it half yet. Now, Recon Dart as well. Infiltrator holding both angles here, and they have to be able to find one, but they find both. Do they have the time? It's been halved, and they should be able to put their 3rd round on the board.
And that's another danger you have for the Sova play for post plants. Exceptionally powerful. You're really relying on something like the Hunter's Fury to be good enough to overcome the differences as an initiator in comparison to the Tejo. Turn that the other way, yes, you can have the salvos that recharge so you're good on the actual take and on the post plant. A Shark Dart can semi do the same thing, and the Recon Bolt can force players off, like we saw Flair had to shoot just moments prior as they were sticking that to half. But then the Odin comes into hand. And as a Teo, you just really can't peek at all, right? Your entire role and responsibility is purely utility driven, but Jeffy can get that out much faster. And then the moment they have it out, can pull out their gun and play off of that information or play off of the forced sightline removal to get themselves a kill and try to hold on for that post plant. Ollie off to their doppelganger of Hijinks. No more Omen, no more for Harrisburg. That means that their smoke economy is going to be very abysmal, especially when they don't have a Cypher cage using the KJ instead.
Yeah, well done from the side of Winthrop. Understanding that back cubby corner on C site is exactly where Hijinks loves to use there from the Shadows ult. You see now, Cypher ult, pinging out the team, spotting Harrisburg, hitting that A site. Rotations are going to come through, but they still have to be careful of Ian here, trying to lurk on B. Ian finds the rotation and able to fit their first pick. Second one as well. Ali finally takes them out. Infiltrator will find one of their own with the op. The swing will come out from Shadow, but it may be a little too late in the 1v2 situation. Still has to get the bomb down. We see Flair listening to everything, swings out at the most opportunistic time to get that pick. And that it's 4 rounds on the board, Scott, for Winthrop, and this is pretty much all you really need if you're the defensive side.
I mean, this is what we expect from a map like Haven, and the fact of the matter is there's still plenty more chances for round wins in front of this Winthrop side. Harrisburg are in a bit of a thrifty scenario. Not everybody has the credits to fully buy, and they're likely going to either come to a disjointed decision on what they want to buy up and what they want to force, or they'll likely have everyone sell to try to equalize the overall economy and try to find a balance in some capacity. But with Neon, Huso having their overdrive, it's essentially a free kit, but you got to make sure that Huso can get there fast enough and be close enough with how limited that ultimate is in time capacity now. The major nerf that hit Neon really stinks to try to player now on maps like Haven, and that's where you have so much more importance for your other agents, your other picks for this map. As you go in, Rolling Thunder committed now off towards C. Huso trying to follow behind it. No, shoddy out and gets themselves one as well, though they fall. Wow. Not able to trade it. You still get a kill, which is something you weren't super happy with anyways if you're Harrisburg, considering the weapons you came into this with. Ian off towards Ollie. A 3-on-4. Damage should have been easily dealt towards Jeffy, but that's just not the case. Now Infiltrator's alone, able to dice up Jeffy. 3 players close to site, 1 inside garage, 1 moving back towards defender spawn, and then Hijinks just close to the doorway off towards Hall. Whoa. Down they go, but you can't rechamber it in time, and Shadow knows it, swings it, and owns you, getting their 7th of this half.
Well done from the side of Harrisburg with a broken buy there, but is it really a broken buy if you have a Neon and a Bucky? I mean, beautifully done with the Rolling Thunder. This comes from them just taking control of C Orb every single round so far, and that's the 3rd Rolling Thunder coming out from the side of Harrisburg. This was able to set up Uso with that early pick, get that Cypher out of the way, and even though they were taken down early, as long as the tripwires are down, the rest of the team can flood and trade you out, Scott.
Oh. One more chance here for Winthrop to try to get to 5. You can't break even no more at halftime, Jackson, but does not mean the obstacles in front of you cannot be dealt with just the same. You still have the overdrive if you hear so. It's ultimate territory. You use it or lose it. And if you're Ollie, maybe you're hoping to use that as a way to get information. But the team is prowling very heavy-handed off towards A main. And while Infiltrator does get a single frag for the trade, it's gone positively instead for Harrisburg. Jeffy's gotten 3 and is still standing, hoping for more. Ian now towards Ollie. Moobs is stuck in a deficit, a 1v2, and both of these players have an ultimate right now. Post plant out the wazoo. You've got a Hunter's Fury online. The lockdown's already coming into play. And where can you possibly try to escape to? It'll be down towards A long, just outside the cubby to stall. And they know that. It's an easy cleanup. There's only one place to go. You're going to be there, and you got a player to watch it be in. A great round for Harrisburg, and a wonderful half to cement them up positively 2 times the total tally of Winthrop.
It's been a while since I've seen a flat-out brawl in the attacker's spawn. I mean, what an aggressive move coming out from Winthrop there. I think it was a good move, though. They just weren't able to win the gunfights. Then you got to see Oops just trying to set up on the defense, not really there to help the team, and eventually it was the numbers advantage that helped Harrisburg out. Beautifully done on that ultimate combining both of them, not even waiting for the post plant, just going to secure the round there. As we go into halftime now, both of these teams just coming from the LAN, you know, starting to get used to the ping difference, perhaps utilizing our sponsor, Exit Lag.
Oh, we love exit lag here, to be honest. We got onto it so bad last weekend for players lagging, but you just want to see it as much. Faster connection, less teammates yelling in your ear, Jackson.
Yeah.
Which I think is the biggest part of our current generation. Eliminate all those connection issues. It's just, I really got to get into it myself, but I've been holding off. I've been truly holding off. But when I start getting back into my competitive scene for Valorant, my arc down to the silver elo, I swear we're going to get a whole lot better, knowing my connection will never have any problems whatsoever. Speaking of problems, though, Harrisburg likes to play a lot for the old Torb economy. Not so much, it seems like, for Winthrop just yet. They're playing a slow pistol round. Group as much as you can. try to get players into apex positions just outside of the archways and the main entranceways in towards site. You already got your Cypher here moves deep into A long, so the team has pivoted over to try to assist that. And now you can facilitate a push onto site with a plant moments thereafter. And it's taken almost the entire time bank for this round to do so. And you've even gotten a ton of damage now off towards Nasi with a gorgeous shock dart, beautifully read at the right time. And that's one more player that's just that much easier to deal with, Jackson.
Yeah, but Flare, though, able to find the picks on that flank. So now they know that the two-prong attack has been broken down, but somehow Ian and Jeffy able to find two, thinning the numbers just a little bit. Planning for long now, the numbers in favor of Winthrop. But Flare, such low HP on this pistol round. Ian is just going to stay in the rockets, checks the wrong angle. Ali able to take him out now. Huso left in the 1v3. They are going to get paranoia. And not a lot of time left for them to try and hold both angles here. Flare is going to push out. Are they able to get the kill? Yes, but it's not enough. The kill does not win the round as Winthrop take the first or the second pistol.
Just a matter of trying to get some credits in an ult orb economy for Huso. They know it was never going to go past that point. And the second round is now the big one. Round 14 of this second half. Knowing that Winthrop are already down 8-4, they've cemented themselves to the start of the half and can likely make this an 8-6 as long as things continue to go their way. But the question is going to be, how heavy-handed do they come in to this 14th round? And the choice is, da-da-da-ding, pretty darn heavy overall if you're Winthrop. Two proper rifles in the Phantom and Vandal, a Bulldog as well. And yeah, you do have two players kind of holding back, one with a Stinger, Nasi with nothing, just really making sure that they have as much as possible coming into the later rounds, and their role in importance will come more so off the utility for this round, so they're buying up everything in their kit first and foremost. But you just want to get as much of an advantage as possible without losing anything in the process. That's why Moobs is the first player down through short, despite being a Sentinel. They prowl in with that Stinger, take down Jeffy, and they've got the entire team stacked inside A main. They're playing long, they're playing the long con, and they're going to send themselves now with a sentry drone, finding no one on site for a free plant once again. And there's no Sova to shock dart you this time. Jeffy goes down, and Harrisburg, they're now singing their dues. They've got to sprint on over to the A site.
Beautifully done by Winthrop there. Not giving up any weapons, all playing together, nobody lurking. They know they have the weapons advantage. They don't want to gamble on a 1v1 and maybe get a headshotted by a sheriff. See now Huso tries to do something with the Bucky, but they are going to get stunned out. Here comes the push now. Infiltrator finding one and should be able to find the other. Hijake's now down to 1 HP. They may have the right click, but they've double pushed. Infiltrator not missing that easy shot, easy clear there. So a flawless round coming from the side of Winthrop. This puts them in a position to perhaps try and bonus the same way that Harrisburg did.
Oh, and they'll trade out weapons as well. Infiltrator would get the judge. You hand over the Bulldog to Nasi. You can have a commitment here as well to take a buy since Nasi didn't really go for much. Moobs had that Stinger previously. There's a lot there. And once again, put it down to the bottom there, exit lag, ensure you're better and faster connections and routes to game servers, eliminate your connection issues with a single button press, right? These players have had so much experience on LAN this last week. I think both teams actually were at LAN, if I recollect correctly. And they're probably feeling a little bit of the ping overall in comparison, and they really want to make sure they can eliminate that as well as eliminate the chances of worrying about ping if they can get to the LAN and down in Raleigh. But wow, Infiltrator rushes through, TP, shocks Jeffy's world, and now you've got a site hold where if you're Huso, you're sneaking within that dark cover and praying for a freebie as Ian does just the same now. This time throw inside garage, playing the window and shutting down the lagging behind player that you're expecting to be there for Winthrop's offense.
Winthrop now trying to take that A site. Hijake's though able to get the better of Ali and the off angle that they weren't checking. So down to a 2v4. We now see Ian trying to take space here, and this is a bit of a risky play. You don't want to give up control of this flank, not while you still have the numbers advantage. As we saw Flare a bit aware that there's a potential lurk. Is going to make contact with Hijinks, so they still know that the hit's likely to come from this A side. Hijinks is going to swing straight out, find a pick on the Flare. Nasi now left in the 1v4, has the Odin in hand. This is their bonus though, so if they're able to just take some rounds, some lives off, that doesn't look like they're able to do so. Harrisburg holds on to the third round, not getting bonus.
Keep in mind, you didn't have to buy too much of your Winthrop for the round, so you should still be fine overall, especially with Nasi not having to buy anything for the last 2 rounds, right? They saved up in round 14. They had already been given a Bulldog by a teammate, so that was never an issue. Infiltrator handed that off and then had to buy themselves a judge. they're fine to play in, and we're finally going to see the real start of this second half and the value that's going to be gained thereafter, and maybe where the wins and losses are going to start to matriculate for either of these sides. For Harrisburg, defense has been pretty clean, but you have to deal with the Tejo of Flare, who's been playing pretty lights out. I said comparatively that Tejos don't have as much frag potential for this map, typically sit bottom of the leaderboard. Flare is throwing that, in my words, straight into the bin. Does not like to hear me bring that up, and has been going absolutely crazy for this half, and then wants to continue to do so. Infiltrator has to TP out, spotted by a recon bolt, but Jeffy does not want to let them leave, and Hijinks even gets a shot around the corner towards defender spawn. Only Flare has been able to find a frag up till now. Nasi with the reload boat sent by Huso, not really getting the distance or the gap they really wanted. They're not able to close into that space freely, as it'll be a 1-for-1 trade thereafter. 2-on-2. Where can they head in towards? Ian will go ahead and secure themselves the position to defuse this. Moves, doesn't know where to fire, and Hijinks just waddles their way in front of C Long. Ian completely safe to go for that defuse, and Harrisburg are at double digits already.
And beautifully done from Harrisburg there. We see Infiltrator get deep into C, clearing out all of C basically with the Dimensional Rift, and even set out a fake out on top of Garage that did catch basically all the players of Harrisburg. But Hijinks there, quick thinking with the paranoia, as well as Jeffy with the recon dart to just pull Infiltrator out of there, not giving them a chance to do anything on that connection. And ultimately, it led to them taking down Infiltrator, allowing them to get the C site. And man, I'm not really the type to point out individual play right now, but Moves, I think the positioning from them is just not there. They're not really able to support their team. The flanks coming way too late, and then the over-rotate back to Long, making Nasi fight a 1v3 by themselves, basically. And that made it difficult for them to try and take that round, as Hijinks on this aggressive flank will find one, but Infiltrator gets a kill with the Bucky to even up the numbers.
He's hunting for more. Jeffy was close by. Look at the play from Infiltrator! TP's behind Shadow, and while Nasi will fall on sight, there's been still so much gained overall for Winthrop, even coming into this one in pretty much an eco round. A single bullet needed to shut down Huso. Crossfire, body shot, Nasi, you just can't miss those. Sorry, Moves, you just can't miss those. That is just an unforgivable sin, it feels like. A single sheriff shot, a classic right click at that range would have done enough damage to finish the job. And Harrisburg are now up to 11. We talk about double digits as the checkpointer chokehold. It does not seem like Harrisburg will be gate kept from reaching 13 at the rate this is going, though. Last round, just an eco. Winthrop are staring at the precipice of a recovery round and getting them to 7. And just make minor mistakes. And at this rate, in the uppers here for the championship, you can't make those minor mistakes. If you do, it's already done for you.
And this is the furthest that Winthrop has gotten so far in this eval tournament. They don't want to go down to the losers here. They want to make sure that they continue over into winner semifinals. We've seen an aggressive push out coming out from the side of Harrisburg. Russo will find one, but that's it. Ali to trade out. So just weathering the storm right now on the side of Winthrop.
They're number 1 seed as well. Think about the importance for that for them. What that's meant. And what that means to the teams that are facing them, Jackson. Knowing that they're going to have a good showcase, have to put in a good show. Perform to their highest T against a team that is expected to be the best of the best. It's a tough and tall ask, but look at the way Harrisburg has done it so far on map 1. A map that we said Winthrop we're going to be competent on. We're going to look really good on. They're good at Haven, but Harrisburg wants their map pick, and they are fighting for it with every teeth.
See the executes coming out now over onto the C site. But Moves has gotten a lot of area here onto B, essentially clearing it out by themselves. Found the gap in the defense. This is going to prompt Winthrop to try and hit this B site, but you see Ian there on that 8 link was never cleared. Will Winthrop clear that out? There you go, flashpoint to try and push Iron off the angle.
Ooh.
To get a little spray damage onto Nasi, but the plant will go down.
Nothing to fight that. So now you're just waiting. Ultimate in hand, maybe for Nasi here. They want to go pretty big. There it is. Rolling Thunder hits 2 inside of Link. And even though it did, Jeffy still gets 1. Unforgivable. Winthrop still in a 3-on-3. Ian peeking now towards Gong. Has a perfect crossfire with Hijinks. You'd have to swing one or you get the other. Ollie is just trying to play the other side. And though Ollie will get Shadow, it's a 2-on-1. And Hijinks has been the better fragger between these two sides so far through the series. And they got their utility out. Don't get caught empty-handed, folks. And it's 12 now for Harrisburg. double the score tally. We talk about it, 8-4 half, haha, tee-hee, it's double. That's just a 4-round difference. Now there's 6. You have to do the same level of success you've had throughout these 18 rounds, now within a 6-round limited period with 0 mistakes, and hoping that the ultimates don't be the ultimate forgiveness for Harrisburg, because they just need to use 1 or 2 in a round and essentially stamp the I win button to get that 13th.
And we see just from that replay alone how devastating a weapon like the Odin is. That's why it's worth so much. They were hit with the Rolling Thunder, fully stunned, and that fire rate was basically still about the same rate as a Vandal, and they were able to get that spray out, just preventing any sort of push or capitalization from that Rolling Thunder. As we see another aggressive fight coming out on the side of C-Long, this time numbers being traded out evenly. Ali's going to teleport into the back of C. And this does clear it out the site, allowing for the rest of the squad to come in. But keep an eye on Ian on that long flank. C-Long has a chance to just line up 2 or 3 of them, as they do not check for him at all. Finds the first. Infiltrator will get the plant down, but now the numbers are in favor. The retake to come out from a 2-prong, Spawn and Long. Infiltrator pops the dimensional rift, but it's not enough. Ali gets taken down. Now Infiltrator in the 1v3. Can they clutch this out? They will not be able to, and Harrisburg will take Haven.
As clean of a map as you could possibly ask for, and a scoreline you'll look back at if you're Winthrop and go, what the heck just went so wrong for us? 13-6 on a map that we've taken down teams like St. Clair at, Fisher that made it to a grand finals for the NECC, that's still in that lower bracket side, or sorry, the upper bracket side, but on our south side of that format. This is not a team you'd expect to have that loss for, but Harrisburg go absolutely crazy securing their map win. And just as much as I talk about a lot about how it feels like Winthrop are a team that can adapt on the fly and prove themselves to be this super strong team at making up for mistakes, I didn't see really any adaptability on this map. It felt a lot like instead of Winthrop being this team that can adapt in a map, they're going to look at it and go, okay, next time we face you, Harrisburg, we'll get you on that map. That's inexcusable. You may never face them again here for the championship. You already didn't face them at the LAN, right? So for Nace, you may never have another chance to take down this opponent in front of you. And it will be too little too late if you get dropped down to the lower side, because there are some darn good teams that have been dropped there already who are foaming at the mouth to continue hoping for the remainder of them to be flawless moving on, especially if it's the #1 seed dropping. They're going to be very well prepped for you, a lot like we've seen Harrisburg were at the end of map 1.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this comes from Huso's pick on the Neon. We mentioned Neon getting the nerfs, and the pick coming out from the side of Moobs on that Cypher, they didn't really look so comfortable, and I think that was the adjustment that Winthrop tried to do. Try to use those tripwires to slow down any of these Neon power slides. But on the other hand, Harrisburg had every angle covered, every scenario possibly that they could set up to try and stop Huso. The Silver was there. The lineups were there. Every single round on attack, they took down at least one of the tripwires. This allows I forget the breach on the side of Harrisburg. I think it was Shadow, able to fight for these orbs, able to set Rolling Thunder after fault line. Huso just coming in there, sliding through with the Bucky, getting a pick here, getting a pick there, always on the Cypher. It just seemed like the tripwires were just not there to stop them on that defense. On the attacking side, I think the positioning coming out, the lurk was just a little too hard when the team needed to be fought. And it just, every time they took the space though, and they were able to clear the site, they didn't try to venture out any further. I think the confidence was just a little lacking there coming out from the side of Moobs, and that really didn't allow Winthrop to take the space that they desperately needed.
So a lot of problems, obviously, and I think the big one I talked a little bit about Icebox, our potential map 3, was that Sentinels can struggle a lot for that map, especially that's been the case for Winthrop even. It's hard to have your Sentinels be really impactful, and I didn't think that was going to be a problem for any of the other maps in this series. That was our first one, a Haven or Lotus for a second, and yet here we are. We talked about it. Yeah. Moobs was struggling to find impact, and on defense, you tend to struggle a lot if they just keep hitting your site over and over again. And let's look at the way that Harrisburg played that first half. Let's be honest, they brutalized C-site over and over and over again. So what are you going to do, right? So you have to find a way to recover. The second half's it. You're supposed to lag behind, be this floating rib, this flanking player. Where was it? Well, I'll tell you, most of the time, the first loss of life or struggling to stay cohesive with the team. We'll go and throw up all the team stats to kind of show what we're talking about and highlights a little bit more individually the players as we kind of felt that we saw them throughout that series, because map 1 was just a hard spot for Moobs to be in. 4 kills, 18 deaths, and we don't like to harp on individuals, but Moobs was forced to be like this, was forced to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable. The first half, constantly in the C side where you're expecting the Cypher to be. When you started to move them, they still somehow always knew where moves was going to be. And then on offense, they weren't given the freedom, they weren't let off that leash to do what Cyphers have to do. And when that happens, Harrisburg will play their defense to a T, especially with how effective the Odin was in Jeffy's hands. Even when they were stunned, my goodness, on that link to C, it was a Harrisburg map through and through.
Man, did you take a look at these stats coming out from the team? I mean, Harrisburg, there's no more than a 2-kill difference from the top frag to the bottom frag. I mean, every single player was locked in. They were playing with each other, and that's just really hard. I know that we're harping on the Cypher, but it's really not their fault, right? If anything, they needed to switch up the defensive plan, maybe pull Cypher to play off-site and have a 5-man retake. You have double initiators, you have the Sova, and you have Yoru, which basically is a free initiator themselves, right? But they were never able to get that, and the Cypher was fighting themselves against a fault line, against an aftershock, against shock darts, against neon stunts, against paranoia. All utility was thrown onto moves, and at some point, they can't even play the game, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, a team that frags together tends to win together. It's one of my favorite statements I make. If their scoreboard can stay consistent, the team is going to be consistent. And while some roles will have less chance in the limelight and will likely sit more sort to the bottom of the brackets, at the bottom of the scoreboard, doesn't change it. Everyone needs to be participating, and if one player is getting really focus targeted, like I felt like Moves was there, it's really hard to feel the team get elevated to the spot they need to be in to find a win. But we're going to take a break between map 1 and map 2. Do not go anywhere. The teams are getting ready, and we will be too. Stay tuned for more. 13-6 is a scoreline I don't think any of us were expecting, Jackson, heading into the end of map 1 and heading now over towards map 2. But Haven took no prisoners. If you're on the side of Storm, you absolutely obliterated the Winthrop #1 seed heading into the championship. And because of that, you're now the favorites heading on over to map 2, which is your opposition's map pick. So if you're Winthrop, cope as much as you can, because this is your map pick, baby. Time to move on and get to map 3. But we don't know how it's going to go, especially considering we expected a lot more than just 6 from you on Haven, and we just didn't get that, and we're itching to see what else you could bring to the table.
Yeah, and I definitely had Harrisburg taking out Winthrop on Haven, but only eking by just a little bit. I was always expecting some overtimes. Did not expect the blowout that we had seen today. Maybe it's some fatigue on the side of Winthrop. Who knows? But coming into Lotus, this is a map for Winthrop that is like tried and tested. They play this map almost every single round that they've been through. Exactly. And the strongest thing actually about Winthrop, I think, is their defense, their ability to hold these sites. Lotus is notoriously difficult to rotate, to hold all of these triple sites. So tricky that the offense is able to do whatever they want at times, utilizing the doors on both sides. I think we see a little bit of that coming from the side of Winthrop when they were on their defense on Haven, how aggressive they were. And that's exactly what you need on a map like No Lotus. You got to be aggressive on that defensive side while still be able to play those retakes that are necessary. So this is their map pick. I'm expecting them to really do well here, but Harrisburg, again, is no joke either. And from what we've seen today, they might still be in rhythm, still be able to play together as a team to win out this map.
Now, as well to point out, this is another map where we do see the Teo come out here for Winthrop. They like to bring for Lotus the Sova, shockingly enough. That'll be likely Nasi, right? Neon as their new duelist choice, and then the Cypher, Omen, and Teo. So, not the Vice that's been really popular for this map, shockingly enough. I think most teams really have played into that. You turn that over to the Storm, you've got the Raze, the Vice, the Fade, the Viper, the Omen. That is kind of where we see most teams sitting, right? This is the composition that's a little bit more familiar, though the Teo can be thrown in there occasionally depending on the composition and maybe who you want to sub in and out, but a lot of the times it's going to be really looking at that Vice as the Sentinel choice, and that not being in the docket for one side over the other, it's going to make this, well, entertaining, because we as casters hate to see mirror matchups. We like to see things that are new and different. Absolutely. But at the same time, it's going to, once again, make those difference makers, those individual players, their performances matter that much more. Like comparing the KJ and the Omen, or sorry, the Cypher from map 1, right? There just was leagues of difference between the two of them, and obviously that was a big difference maker between them, because you could trust Ian to completely play alone alongside their utility, not really lagging back to rotate into a side alone on offense like you'd expect your Cypher to do for Winthrop on offense and hoping that moves could do so. No, they were just watching the utility, trusting the team could man advantage, usurp control over a site and rotate effectively while you just handled your own. And look at how that changed everything. Now turning it over to our second map, will the difference maker be the same? As Winthrop are already locking in with their picking, doesn't seem to be any major differences from them. Like I said, the Neon, the Cypher, the Sova, and the Teo. And that fifth option will likely be something like the Omen. Sorry, yeah, the Omen for your controller. Don't expect Ollie to really try to shift away from that one. And then for the opposing side of Harrisburg, they all lock it in. You have the Vice, you have the Fade, the Omen, the Viper, and the Raze. They're going to stick to what they knew, stick to what they've done before, and hopefully, if you're a Winthrop fan, your team has done your homework while you were flying away and downloaded those VODs like, you know, we did on our flights last year for the college championship LAN down in Boise, and just watched it the whole time religiously, hoping to get some key notes in on your opposition.
I expected Huso to pick up the Raze here, but I'm almost disappointed that they aren't running the Neon themselves. I mean, the
know.
Raze is it's so difficult to try and play defensively on Raze. And yes, you do have to get aggressive on a map like Lotus, but the Neon is just able to cover so much ground, and even on attack, the electric wall is just able to act like another Viper wall, providing areas for them to lurk. I mean, going for the double controller here, I can see why this is pretty standard Lotus stuff, but I don't know if standard is enough to take down a team like Winthrop, who haven't played, like, they've played against every single team known to man on this map at this point, right? And they've seen all the strategies. If anything, they've seen this default setup time and time again, and definitely have it in the playbook for them to be able to take this out. So I don't want to count Harrisburg out just yet, but I really would have wished to see them like push the boundary just a little bit here, Scott.
Harrisburg have the advantage, though, heading into this map, and it's up to them to cement them a 2-0 series victor, or to fall apart by Winthrop's hands and see a new Winthrop, a new revitalized team after the trudging that really felt like it was on map 1. It's a walkthrough for Winthrop in towards C. It's a solo play for Infiltrator, and they may actually get away with 2 here, and they do, actually. Tons of damage off towards Hugh, so eventually finished off by Nasi, and some assistance there from Holly as well. Winthrop have all 5 still standing, and with how versatile and how mobile this players have been, you know, having 2 players off towards C playing together in tandem, they also had players moving down through A, and it looks like a plant likely to come up towards the A side if they don't try to take a rotate towards B and use a quick link rotate through.
An Infiltrator going down there does put a nail into their plans here, as they can no longer just fast execute. They do time the Vice Wall though, so they are still able to swing together at the same time, but a well-timed flash comes through, and the running and gunning from Iron just not really able to hold out. Boobs finds 2 over there. Now Shadow left in a 1v3. Flare is one shot, so they are able to thin the numbers just a little bit, but so many angles to clear at this point. Does have a Haunt and a Prowler. Let's see if they're able to make something work out of this. Flare is going to swing out, make contact.
Find you.
Looking to support. Sees. No, sorry, not to seize. The Haunt comes out. Flare does get the pick, but so much damage already taken. Still, 31 HP is all you need. Everyone's either dead or 1 HP. It doesn't matter. Shadow gets the pick. 3 kills, 3 headshots, 1 round in favor of Harrisburg.
There's so many reasons why I used to call Fade a duelist, right? It just feels like it's second nature for anyone on this initiation role for this agent. You just feel like you have to, at a certain point, be a facilitator for frags, be the person closing the gap, and you can flash and Prowler out for yourself, everything. Like Sky started to get really good at for a while there. Man, oh man, I'm stuck in a 3v1. Had already found one earlier for the rotate frag into B, and then the shutdowns afterwards. Shadow puts the limelight on them after round 1 and already has 5 pips to their ultimate. The Nightfall, a scary threat to this Winthrop offense, especially when it comes to retaking a side, as they sprint literally off here towards C, and it's 10 HP remaining for Infiltrator, an easy cleanup kill from Ian. And it's a player loss for Winthrop and completely forfeiting any chances of them getting into C site. The Vice is just so darn good for this map.
W key a little bit stuck there for Infiltrator. Was not able to turn around in time, and basically just gave up their life for free. Now Moves trying to get a lurk going here. They are supported by Nasi. Makes contact, but the weaponry too strong on the side of Harrisburg. 2 dogs taking them down. Ali will find a pick, but Ian gets the next. Now Flare is left. Well, Ali just left now in the 1v4. They do have the spike, but at this point, you just want to try to get a plan. Hijinks finishes up the kill. 2-0 right now for the side of Harrisburg.
Confident, in control, and really nothing to say about it if you're Winthrop, but round 2 is an expected loss if you lose out on that pistol. So how do you make the adjustments for round 3? Rifles in hand, utility could be a little bit limited. Nasi is close-ish to their ultimate, but really you're looking at overall trying to play the macro game, get the ult orb off towards C, which it does look like the Storm are going to be fighting pretty heavy for this. As you can look, as Harrisburg is having 3 players primed to step out through this stack, but you're likely to place the dark cover, yep, just above for the one-way, and try to put a player close to shut down Infiltrator's rush. And even with a paint shell and the tether, the perfect wombo combo, it's not enough to kill. I guess the paint shell wasn't tossed high enough. You didn't get it into the corner. Infiltrator's still standing, yes, low, but they're still there, and now you you have to rotate out if you're Huso, still taking no damage. Infiltrator can start to walk away because Flare, look at them taking control, getting a frag, and it's now 2 for Winthrop. What has happened? That should have been an easy cleanup for Storm because they just failed to shut down Infiltrator.
It's unfortunate. The C's not able to really pull them in as much as they wanted to into the paint shells, staying alive, and because of that, they tried to overcommit on that mound fight, and they weren't really able to get anything of it. Now the numbers have just been destroyed coming from the side of Harrisburg. We do see Jeffy trying to get that lurk, and they will hear all of them, but they only have a Sheriff in hand. Finds the first. They get another one. They put them in good standing, but no Flare to clean it out. Now Shadow left in the 1v4. We've seen them clutch out the 1v3 before. Do you think they'll be able to do it again, Scott?
They got 4 kills in that round, right? So technically it's in the docket for them, but I mean, you're going to make a lot of noise here breaking through this link door. Trying to move Flare off from the plant. Salvo's in dark covers, nowhere to possibly contest into this one, and likely a player moving either through defender spawn to contest up or heaven on B, or if not, which it does seem like Winthrop are actually kind of waiting and stalling, just put a player on that staircase to stall. If you're Harrisburg, if you're Shadow, I should specify, there's really no need to have to fight this. You can fall back, you can hold onto a rifle, keep this for the team. Round 3 was an expected loss. It's the standard mold of Valorant competitive, the 2-1 start splits. It's just about making it expensive for Winthrop and making sure that round 4, they'll be missing 1 or 2 weapons or have to give some short givings in some capacity or another, especially with how effectively you shut them down in round 1 and 2, ensuring they weren't able to find very many kills, and even the ones that they did weren't impactful. It's all about the little win conditions, the little things for Harrisburg. And while they will eventually lose out on Shadow, all those kills in the round really just went to a single player of Flare. And you kind of expect that from Mateo here. And they were already pretty close to their Armageddon ultimate. So it's not the worst case scenario, but they will be able to buy a weapon for a teammate and make sure that everybody for Winthrop has something going into this.
Yeah, I do like that play coming out from Shadow, just trying to play the exits there. They were getting very close to their Nightfall anyway. And they have the weaponry and enough credits to buy up again. So why not? Why not try to make the round expensive, right? But the problem is Flare just went crazy in round 3 there. And now they have Armageddon online to try and make something of this. We're going to see a fast attack going towards the A side. Tree has been open to try and bait some noise. See if any rotation's done there. But that is where Ian has set up their traps. So there is no need to fall for these fakes, Scott.
It doesn't even matter if they fall for it. It's so quick to rotate through this map, it feels like. It's just a matter of keeping the players alive when they're doing the bait, which Winthrop have done very well here. Sentry Drone can go so far. You get a player into Garden, which means Infiltrator can stay here for the remainder of the round if they wanted to. The team can maybe do a fallback. Again, you leaving moves all the way close to C Long. As a Cypher, that's your job. Set it on Haven. Didn't get to see enough of it on their offense, but clearly here they're trying to still use that same cohesive strategy and mindset of being able to be that lonesome player lagging behind. You'll see the Vice do the exact same thing for the Storm in their second half on offense, something that Cumberland were doing in their previous series. It's just something you will always see for that Vice to go in as a lonesome warrior. But Ollie will get the first frag for this round. A very swift peek to take down Jeffy. And while you can't get the plant down if you're Flare, look at how much of those kills have now gone in Storm's favor. Infiltrator trying to turn things around. It does get 2 for 1 right afterwards, and it's Shadow and Ian in a very tepid 2-on-2. One player trapped in the corner, and Ian watching and waiting, trusting in Shadow to dismantle, moves his position, and look at that. 3 now for the Storm.
And beautiful position coming out from the side of Shadow and Ian. They're able to cover each other's backs on those angles. I was about to say, that was a very, very beautifully played round coming out from the side of Winthrop until the very end. All of that utility just to set Infiltrator into tree. It allowed them to get that backstab picks that they needed over there at Broken Door to almost close the round out. I really wish that Harrisburg had invested a little bit of utility to clear Garden before moving on for that retake. However, it wasn't even luck. It was just skill. Head flicks on the side of Harrisburg, able to win out that round despite being in that precarious situation.
Oh, and they know no way to run from it. The combo is so strong, but it doesn't give too much leeway. It's the second one that really changes the game for Winthrop. At that range with that weapon, just enough damage to secure But Ian has a crossfire in on the B main approach, getting 2 moves in flare. No one turning in time for that, shocking already, but it just gets worse. Shadow dodging the owl drone, even squeaking Ollie's life to their side. 2 on 2 once again, and I called the last one fairly tepid, but I thought the Storm would lose out. No, Winthrop now having to trade for proper rifles and a high peak. At the same time, a crossfire that just isn't there. What is going on from Shadow and Jeffy? It's Nasi's time to shine.
And I like the haunt being thrown out by Shadow to try and buy themselves some time, but I really wish they threw like a Prowler or a Caesar or anything else, because that haunt would have been crucial to re-clear Mound after that door came out. They just did not have any initiator utility to try and re-clear that, and that allowed Winthrop to just double swing out here, as you see on the replay, and it was just way too much for Shadow and Jeffy to handle in the moment.
What to do if you're on the Storm side. You're coming into an eco round and likely to see Winthrop now tie this thing up 3-on-3. Recon bolt over the top. You're ready to shoot it out, but the team overall for Winthrop are likely to hear into that being a sheriff and assume they just need to be a little bit smarter about where they're taking these fights and play longer range engagements, like wading back towards attacker spawn in pillars and shutting down anyone approaching in through B main. That's 2 kills. 1 off towards A, 1 off here towards B. An infiltrator just closing the gap as a Neon should and finding themselves 2 more. And while you can get some, if you're hijinks, you know that infiltrator's not too far away from it, and you are slowly being incised upon. 1 through defender spawn as hijinks know. Weapon is not out, but they turn in time, but there's no hat, there's no head, it looks like, and it will be moves to get the frag.
And I understand that was a bit of a save round coming out from the side of Harrisburg, but I really hope that's not their defensive game plan moving forward. This has been 2, actually 3 rounds in a row, right, that they tried this aggressive mound play, but they give up so much control of the rest of the map. We see Boobs finally feeling in their comfort zone, getting the picks, and after the bomb is planted, as you're going to see, there's so much space being taken already by Winthrop that there's just no hope. And of course, they were able to eke out round number 4, Harrisburg, by impeccable aim. But how often is that going to happen for you if you keep giving up map control?
Hijinks, look how far forward they're working here. Harrisburg trying to make sure that they can get that ult orb. Strip that away from Winthrop. Both sides have 4 ultimates to their name, and Jeffy wants to get their Viper's Pit online. Such a strong ultimate to lock down all of that C site. And it's more so just about denying its availability for Winthrop, knowing how far they were able to pretty easily walk through that A main side and get a player into Garden, like we saw Infiltrator do and find those 2 kills just 2 rounds prior, even though it didn't lead to a round win from them at the end of it.
Now try to re-clear A main. Drone's gonna come out. Hunter's Fury, Recon Dart, and the stun coming out from the side of Winthrop, and they will find a pick with the Hunter's Fury onto Huso. Now, the Flood's gonna come out. Hijack's in an incredible position. Can they get out in time? They do. Shadow finds a pick as well, and they are able to hold onto A main and the numbers advantage as they pull back out.
Nobody from Winthrop pushes to punish that? That's crazy. Now you got 2 players stuck behind a toxic screen. Another great piece of utility the Viper has in their kit that's missing from Winthrop. Hijinks will step into the dark cover. Nobody inside A main, and the moment they peek that, they'll know for sure. They use a Nightfall, though. This gives them way more information, and Hijinks even just cuts across flare. No chance now. Spike is out in the open, and they have put a smoke up towards heaven to try to clear away any sidelines, but there's just no chance for it. Ollie gets their doppelganger. What a headshot, though, from Ollie. They know they can't win the round. It's just a matter of making it expensive once again, and this fight is done. It will fall in favor of the Storm. 4-3 are split now. And we saw how back and forth Haven was, at least in the first half for the most part. We almost saw a chance for a 6-6 at one point until Harrisburg kind of got the go-ahead. We've yet to see a go-ahead happen so far, and it truly still feels like anyone's map in this half.
Nice adjustment coming out from Harrisburg too. This time they tried to put aggression onto A rubble, but they did not really give up the rest of the map. They had 2 stacked over on C site with the vice traps, and the plan was to play B retake anyway, right? So if they give up B, that's fine. But the main thing was to control rubble and not allow Winthrop to just lurk up on the other sites for free. As you see now, Showstopper coming out, gets the pick on the Infiltrator, unable to find the second though. Nasi to trade out to even up the numbers. And it looks like both ultimates from the, oh no, Neon didn't use theirs. So they still have theirs for the next round, but now look at the space. Ian getting a little bit distracted. unable to find that timing. Got a little paranoid about B main there, and it will get taken out.
Imagine if Houston was able to take down Nasi there as well. This second frag to Aya never would have happened. But what a flick by Hijinks. Good lord. Flair punished for trying to peek that one first. It was once a man advantage for Winthrop. Has now fallen back through. It's a from the shadows from Ollie. Rotating. Now having both sides and an angle for each on B. A shrouded step to peek to make sure no one's waterfall. And there's no one having. They can just put a smoke up there to keep that back and leave one player in link. That's moves. As Nasi plants this just short the waterfall itself within B side, the fountain. You have one player through defender spawn. Nobody downstairs for the storm. They'll have to do two. Unless you're going to have a really low rotate in if you're Hijinks. There'll be one waterfall, two upper. Once that smoke dissipates, will they put a second one down as Ollie have one? Just a matter. Out they come. Onto over the top, spotting. That's a free headshot against Nasi. And Jeffy eviscerates Ollie. Moves, trapped off towards Link. Shadow wants to tap this. You need to have a dark cover there if you're free. But the damage, oh, it doesn't matter. Shadow can now stick this defuse, and Harrisburg can get their 5th round win.
And all that comes off of one hunt. Paranoia from Ali doesn't matter. The hunt's gonna reveal through it. They were able to flood out of Waterfall and Heaven off of that hunt, getting the picks that they needed. And this is beautifully done. This time, Shadow not overusing their utility and making sure that they have what they needed to win the round.
All these little things, the Hijinks flicks right there, the hunt over the top that caught out Nasi, who was so effective for the team in the round for Winthrop, and it's such a big win condition for them. It's little things that add up, and I don't know, we talked a little bit how Storm felt like they were the team that could frag together, and it felt like they were always going to be the team that were going to win together. We need to see more out of the smaller players right now on Winthrop, or we're going to see the exact same problems start to echo across map 1 into map 2. But it's Ollie on Winthrop's side to actually find the first blood, shutting down their doppelganger of Hijinks. With Shadow right back the other way, though. No more a duelist for Winthrop's offense. Infiltrator was not able to get too much further into the throes of this Harrisburg defensive pressure on sites. They fall away from A and will now have to retake it, as Flair will get this plant down with no contestation. As the paint shell doesn't get enough damage, Flair will have no problem in the decay, and also not enough to get them down from the paint shell.
Second raise, fade combo, not landing for the side of Harrisburg, but that's okay. They still have the utility that they need to try and retake here, but Moves finally getting a nice flank. Huso aware of it though, takes down Moves, and this is gonna allow the retake to come through. Flair will find the pick, but will immediately get traded out. Nasi taking them down as well. 2v2 situation now, about half of time left on the spike for them to try and defuse. They'll double swing Ali, get the pick, and Huso and Shadow just clean up. Every shot seems to be falling for Harrisburg right now.
I don't ever see a stance where we're seeing Harrisburg lose these 2v2s. Why on why? Are we seeing two players split for Winthrop that aren't ready to swing after the first player makes contact? You're too slow. Too slow to find impact afterwards, to help out, to refrag. You needed 3 seconds. 3 seconds of time, and maybe it's not having the right agent still be up, right? Not having the right kit still available in the back pocket in these 2v2s. Doesn't matter the case. Start to innovate more. Winthrop, a team that's so good about adapting after getting just dismantled by Fisher in the NECC upper semifinals, dropping into the lowers, getting through the lower grands, and back up to the uppers to win the grands for NECC split. They recovered on the same exact maps and 3-0'd them after losing and struggling in that one, like 13-6s, 13-7s.
Ooh.
Where's that Winthrop right now? They're just so absent. As Infiltrator does use the overdrive, and yeah, you get a kill, but where are you now? And the team's eco not looking so hot, and you just gotta judge as you go for a sprint plan on a B site.
And Move try to get a lurk going. They do get spotted out here. The Bucky, the Infiltrator trying to hold this broken door area. Viper's Pit will go down too from the side of Harrisburg. So that's a pretty good ultimate for them to be able to try and defuse this. Flair, though, however, will find the pick onto Jeffy, so that Viper's Pit is down. Now Flair stuck in a 1v3. Just not enough. Harrisburg clinical with these retakes right now, Scott.
So many chances given up by Winthrop. And it's an eco round for them, or kind of, right? It's a thrifty. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense for things to go this way. For a map especially that can be super confident on attack, and for teams to have so much freedom around the map. It's a wide map, man. It's like there's so much room to prowl about, to go for these first bloods, to contest players that you know a little bit weaker. And we saw Harrisburg do that on map 1. Look at the end result for the scoreboard for Moobs. That is primary point and example number 1. They got constantly targeted, eviscerated, shut down. There was just nowhere for Moobs to be comfortable. And that obviously laid into the second half and made things even worse for him, where we saw Storm truly come out ahead and in that one in such a lopsided way. They need to do the same thing. Find who's struggling. Find where they like to stand. Find the weak site. And it did look like for a while B was going to be it. But B has been retaken every single time. It's not weak if they're just letting you have it to take you in afterwards.
This time, though, the God smiling onto Winthrop. 2 kills through smoke right now as they get to take up this C site in a 3v5. Haven't been able to get the plant down yet, as you see Harrisburg so aggressive on this fight, but he may be biting off a little bit more as they can chew, as a flawless round comes out from the side of Winthrop to try and retake this momentum.
Last round in the half.
Oh my goodness. One more round left in this half, and Winthrop can make this 7-5. The eco for Harrisburg is not super pretty, but they have a little bit in the back pocket still to work with. A lot of that round was really given up by Ollie not being able to, or Ollie getting that kill, I should say, at the start, shutting down Ian and making that Vice a little bit less of an oppressive force. And the Vice is really oppressive, especially when you're comparing the agent selection for Winthrop. Infiltrator has 9 kills, but keep in mind how many of those rounds it could have been more if they didn't have to step through 13 Vice thorn traps laid in the ground afterwards, and they're dealt with just 20 to 30 HP remaining, and that one round with 10. Like, their job and their role is so hard, and yet they're still sitting up tied overall for top on their team. That's the difference maker that Infiltrator is and can be. As you see a little bit of a poking contention for Huso. Both sides doing a little bit of a shimmy step there. Thank you, Ollie, for showing your best moves. It may not matter anyway. Shadow gets a free frag off to Flare, and though Nasi does punish them very quickly afterwards. You have Huso around that bend, who also gets their 1-for-1. And if you're Harrisburg, you would maybe like to say you gotten yourself a good stance because you just got team paranoid on that approach through. And this plant means nothing if you can't get them out in time, as it's a 3-on-1 against Nasi. Jeffy getting that against Ollie is crazy. And you're rushing out, Classic in hand. It's not going to matter. The Bucky right clicks down Nasi and secures an 8-4 again.
Switching sides.
Oh man, an Infiltrator right now. I was like, Ollie, what are you doing? I had him in sights, but I couldn't see because I got team flash. Super unfortunate there. A bit of a broken buy, to say the least, coming out from the side of Harrisburg with 2 shotguns, and they were able to get 2-3 cheeky picks. Just unfortunate. It just seems that Winthrop is just not synchronized right now. I don't know. Maybe they need to take some time and like check their stopwatches, making sure that they execute at the same time, because Harrisburg is running circles around them so far.
They're running circles around them, but I don't think we can blame any ping issues. And whether it is the case or not, Exit Lag can help your ping issues by ensuring a better and faster connection route to game servers, eliminating connection issues with a single button press. So keep an eye out for it. If you ever see anyone lagging, make sure to just throw it in their face. Should have had exit lag. I know that's my coping mechanism half the time. I'm not bad. My ping is just terrible. I really should take that extra step to ensure my internet traffic is 100% at its highest capacity. Speaking of capacity, there's a lot of open space on C site there for the taking, as it's a fallback for Winthrop and a half. And look at the hunt that Hijinks is going for. They are rushing through to try to deal with moves. It's a double swing though, triple swing even. And with the damage dealt to Hijinks and Nasi and moves, it's all just a cleanup game for Harrisburg, having that advantage. Infiltrator still low. Holly with a headshot to Huso, and they'll rush now to try to get back at Shadow. They'll stick towards their side. Infiltrator low. Salvos into the corner, keeping a player off of Vox. Infiltrator wants to try to get as close as possible. This dark cover could be a great way to make some space, but Infiltrator, despite being low on HP, still gets some kills, and it's now Ollie v Ian, and Ian just can't stand with them. Run and gun may not matter. Ollie gets 3 in the start of the second half.
Beautiful, beautiful smoke there. Dark Cloud coming out from the side of Ali, allowing them to take space and cut off angles on that retake. But Scott, I really thought I was watching Team Deathmatch for a second there. Like the positions where these fights are happening, right? This is not something that you see in a game with high stakes like this, but it's just both teams being so aggressive there, as we see Ali clutching it out. Both teams just being so aggressive, taking positions that we normally don't see. I love it though. Right, that's exactly what Harrisburg needed to do. They needed to try and fight for spawn, to try and get those picks and control that. Unfortunately, they just were not able to, as Ali just clutches out at the end.
Keep in mind as well, like, most of the time when you see a team go crazy for a TDM style fight there, it means they're confident enough that they're better than the opposition in the gun department. And yeah, maybe you could make the argument that Harrisburg are. They won map 1 pretty well. Everyone was flying out on all cylinders. But I would never feel this comfortable to say that and play like that with how tight the championship run is. Ollie trapped there by a tether, trying to be saved by moves. So eventually they'll fall from Jeffy's hands for a Bucky. Harrisburg have come in with a vengeance onto site and have actually managed to get themselves in a spot to actually get this spike down and get some credits to their name, even if they don't come away with the victory at the end of this. And it's up to Winthrop to just try to stall out and get themselves one more. Huge shot from Jeffy, but it's 4 HP remaining for Nasi, and it's a cleanup for Yuso. There's Shadow. 1 on 2, and Ollie only has a ghost. No! The worst player to leave here, finally collecting a Guardian. And they do get a dig there towards Shadow. Oh my goodness. But that dark cover will dissipate, and now you can just fall back if you're Huso. Close to the corner, and it's another one for Shadow. Harrisburg, you're breaking the mold. It's VALORANT. It should be a 2-1 start, but you've just turned this into a 1-on-1.
Oh, huge eco breaker there. And this whole day, Jeffy has just been getting lucky with the Bucky. I mean, every time they fire, they convert at least 1 kill. That shot onto Nasi just chunked everything, and it allowed them to turn the tide around. It's just insane what's happening right now. I don't know about you, though. Still, I love the confidence coming out from Ali. I really thought they were able to pull out another 1vx clutch, but unfortunately, they got eco'd, and it's just going to be pretty tough for them now that they have their eco break.
Yuso's trying to be the first one out here. In towards B. They only have to deal with Flare, and a Sheriff is not much to contend with, and now with that Prowler turning around the bend, you know they're here, and the calling card will be made for the rest of Winthrop to try to rotate into B and just shut down any of the players on this reproach. And Infiltrator's already been hurt a lot. They know they're there. This is not a weapon you are going to feel comfortable with testing. Paranoia could free up a little bit. They're likely waiting to see if they have to use it here, if they want to save it for another approach. Jeffy spraying, I should say, through a wall. This is where I said this map is very paper mache, and the Odin can be so darn good here. But all their saving graces were not off towards Infiltrator, who's already low in a main, or a lobby, I should say. Instead, it's on C-side. Ian, no moves, getting taken down by Ian. Now, Nasi making some headway, taking off the head of Hijinks and trying to keep them off this site for a plant, as they've done good enough job for it. And Nasi is very low, finally contended. Trounced off by Ian. Shot from the Sheriff. There's Flare, who couldn't get it on B main prior. They'll be flushed back with so much utility. They can't escape towards Mound, which is where you want to see a lot of the players for Harrisburg try to play for this post plant. They can't even get the plant.
There's not enough time here left, Scott. 15 seconds. But they don't have the weaponry to try and win this out, but it's not enough. There's a new Sheriff in town, and they're from Winthrop University. Flare finding 2-3 picks with that, and they were able to bring the eco right back to Winthrop. Momentum, honestly, is in anyone's team right now.
This is such a crazy affair. Harrisburg very well should have been at double digits already, and we saw how quickly they surged past the double-digit tally on the first map end of Haven. But Winthrop say this is our map. We can't let the second half go against us, and we'll finally start to see the next round what this map should hold for us the remainder. Because this is an eco once again by Harrisburg, and we saw them pull it out crazy style on round 14. The question will be, can they do it again on the offense? C-site was so tumultuous, Jackson. Such a speed and swiftness from Winthrop. Now with the combo from the Hunter's Fury and moves getting shots across. They're already down a player on site, and they have no ability to smoke this out any further.
Nightfall's going to come through from the side of Harrisburg to try and get some footing onto this site. Iron stuck by themselves right now, and they use the ultimate as well, but Jeffy will get a pick. However, it's not enough. Ali able to find one as well and get the spike. They did not check for the omen, so this is quite a precarious situation for Harrisburg. They really wanted this eco round, investing 2 key ultimates there to try and take C site.
I think at 40 seconds, man. Look at the wraparound that's coming in from Jeffy. all the way in from attacker spawn through waterfall, now wrapping into C-site. Yes, Iron's down, but you have 2 possible kills here. If Jeffy can just play this timing correctly. Oh, and the crosshair was on, but they were still sidestepping with the A key. And the shot goes awry, just enough to save Infiltrator's life. And it's 7 now for Winthrop. Needs 2 more to tie up this series. And they need just 5 more. Casters don't do math that often, but 5 more to ensure 6 more, sorry, to ensure a map victory over this Harrisburg roster and force us over to Icebox, which Winthrop are probably pretty confident on, considering the score lines we've seen from them and how poorly Harrisburg has performed against really good teams. And we know how good Winthrop is. Maybe that'll hold true again.
Bring them down.
Now we see the fight coming down. Aggressive over on that C site. A gun round for both, but Nasi gets the spray out with the Odin. They will get to trade out Infiltrator, but is it enough? 2v2, I mean, 3v3 now since Iron gets to take down Nasi. And now we're going to have a little cooldown to try and see if they can spot out anyone else on these other sites.
How much do you have to play into this? If you're on Winthrop, a player on each side, or at least holding a crossfire, would be enough to ensure they can't take a site for free. That's Flair's responsibility right now for A. Hold that link door. Play for an IUQ. You don't have a Viper, so you can't just throw a toxic screen and wait on the other side of it. Move your Cypher all the way back. Moobs can just hope for a neural theft later if they wanted to. Try to wait if there's a big audio queue, more than 1 player spotted. Dark cover will go into the archway connecting to C, and this is layered just right for Moobs to watch back of sight, as well as have Ollie up close in that tucked away corner. And the Prowler could give you enough information as to where these tracers will come from if Ollie has to shoot to clear it.
Cover going out.
They'll fall back and they'll put another smoke down. Shadow got through. Is the rotate a possibility? Just isn't. And Ollie will eviscerate 2 on the approach in. And it's 8 now for Winthrop. And that was just Harrisburg struggling from the get-go and really not having a lot of trust that these 3 players could get into a site safely.
And a lot of that comes off the back of moves being able to stay alive, having their utility up, understanding that they did a pretty aggressive push onto Mound. It's possible that they could rotate if you're Harrisburg, right? But because the utility from Cypher was still there, it allowed Ali to just stay by themselves on C, understanding that if they do push up, a Dark Cloud is more than enough to buy them time to rotate.
Dark cover likely to go out here into the back of C site. Looks like Harrisburg want the C objective. And they'll even make a lot of noise activating that ult orb to do so. They want to get Huso. Chance for a free kill. Double boost pack light to go in towards back of sight. Maybe deal with moves. Worried more so about the trap wire. You can also Shrouded step past that if necessary, but the Prowler can clear it as well. Now nobody has to worry about it on the way in. There's your boost pack. Ready. No, it's a bait. Popped in. And there's your Paranoia. Showstopper in as well. Moves, trying to move in. They're both taken down. Hijake's not looking upwards when needed. And the team not able to step out past the Cypher caged or the tripwire thereafter. Such a stall game from Winthrop. And Ian wants to rotate and takes down Nasi in the process. But nobody's covering the archway to see. How are they expected to have a save approach into B side if no one's watching the angle?
And finally, Moobs, time to shine right there. I don't know if you saw that setup, Scott. That was a death trap waiting to happen. Double one-ways and a tripwire deep into sight that's specifically set for anybody that's trying to push through with a teleporter or a double satchel showstopper, like we saw Huso. Moves was locked in and ready. This was their time to shine, and finally, they get to play the game, Scott.
Oh my goodness, and Harrisburg will call a much needed timeout to try to break down what's gone so tragically wrong for this second half. Now 4 in a row for this Winthrop roster. This next round will be, yes, a bye for Harrisburg. But the question will be, how comfortable are they still within that bye as the loser's bonus starts to tally out and max out? Winthrop, though, I mean, come on. You got Nasi, who's maxed out on creds. They've still got an Odin. They have not really had to worry about dropping. It's not been an issue. They've got ultimates out the back pockets. Yeah, the neural theft is a little bit hard to use. Same thing with the From the Shadows, can be nitpicky. But look at how close some of these other ultimates are. Flare for the Armageddon, just 2 pips away. They're a little bit less at the top of the scoreboard in comparison to they were earlier, as well as on map 1. But comparatively, that's what Ateo needs to do for this map. I mentioned they would likely be a fallback player and more so reliant on their life. And look at how that's been such a solid way for Winthrop to retake these sites, because it's been a lot like we saw in Haven. The early play for Harrisburg was just to hit a site, hit a site, hit a site, and it was always C. They've got to move away from that and hit a different objective, but it doesn't look like they'll do so. 3 players readied off into C lobby, 2 players direct with Spike up there, and they're really hoping that Huso and Shadow can make enough of a safe gap alongside the damage that's already been dealt to Infiltrator to go for more. And there's your 2-for-1 special if you're Ian. Eat up on B site, and you have a very high chance to take that objective if you want it, but you want A, and you'll move the whole team over to get it.
Ego play. Straight up ego play coming out from the side of Infiltrator, and I think this may just cost them the go-ahead round. Unless Ali can pull out some magic here. Nope. Hijinks said, I'd have enough of your hijinks. I'm taking you down. That's 3 down on the side of Winthrop, and this just looks like a free round coming out from the side of Harrisburg.
I mean, Nazi's got an Odin. It could spray down 1 or 2, but it can only have the luxury of the 1. And Huso is expecting to die. You're duelist. Your role kind of is just to die half the time. Separate some sightlines, get a couple kills before you do. And they go even crazy here with a Viper's Pit. This was not a necessary thing, but knowing that the eco would still be tough, the next round you want to head in with all 4 players that are alive, still being alive, as it looks like Moobs will play in for an exit frag. Having all the way in towards Pillar, and all the way just by door. Jeffy is using that Odin that they were so keen on all across map 1 on both sides of the pitch. The exact same way. Spray through the paper mache walls that this map brings to the table, and your 3 stuck inside Garden will now have to either deal with Moobs or, well, try to laugh the other way. And eventually Moobs will have to clear out that haunt, and in doing so gives up where they are, and Hijinks can get that frag.
Go ahead round coming to the side of Harrisburg there, and I guess they did it, Scott. You wanted them to hit a different site. They ended up doing that. I don't think that was the original plan. I think that was just a really bad decision coming out from the side of Infiltrator to try and push with 2 HP, losing control over there, and then just rotating, coming out from the side of Harrisburg. Easy site win. The only thing that I think Winthrop has going for them is the fact that Jeffy used the Viper's Pit. So we'll see how that works out.
Where to go if you're Harrisburg on the offense? You've done so much testing of the waters towards C, and I said you got to go elsewhere, and even with the effectiveness on B, you still went A, and that's kind of the name of the game. B site's not a site that you take very often. You know that, especially considering how easily you dismantled the retake for Winthrop on that site when they planted. But it's a Hunter's Fury actually off screen that goes out and trying to find anyone on Harrisburg's offense caught unknown. Nasi swinging with an Odin, just walking into the open. Down they go. That's a rightful way to punish them. Lots of damage dealt by Flare, but it goes the other way just the same. Ian can toss a lot of utility at range, but with the combo from Flare, they go even with just 34 HP for 1 more. And it's a 4-on-4. Very low players for both sides, but it's even worse for Ian. And they'll go down now. It's just a free frag for Moobs. Headshot to Shadow. Huso low. And it's Ian at 1 HP. No, sorry. I'll stand corrected. 2 HP near Jeffy.
30 seconds.
You got to pray that you can sneak up on Moobs here and try to equalize in some way or another as the team will get into the C site. You'll step in a tripwire and give up that information where Ian can get their kill despite being at just 2 HP and maybe make this more manageable for Jeffy in the later moments as Moobs takes down the last remaining player in defender spawn. And it's just Jeffy now being spotted by the Neural Theft and trying to bait that they're off there towards Waterfall, or sorry, towards Default. Needs to fight both players now moving through Waterfall, and they'll almost line them up. You just needed 1 more shot on Moobs, but they get their 4K and they eat up to give Winthrop the round win.
Tying it back up once again by Winthrop. Questionable decision there coming out from Harrisburg Storm. They had such deep positioning into tree. I get it, right? They took a long fight. They saw all this utility being thrown, but they lost their Omen, and their Viper had no toxins left for them to try and rotate. So for them to make that attempt and come out of tree, giving all of that sound cue, try to cross a main without any cover. They took so much like damage just trying to get out of there. They ended up losing half their team anyway, so it didn't really bode well for them. I see the idea to try to rotate to a free site. They was just too thick, too deep in it for that to happen, Scott.
Flashes out over the top. Once again, looks like Harrisburg want to go back towards C, but they were not expecting Ollie to be up on top of box. Sometimes you just have to wait out the double smoke layer and the one way that's off towards C, off in mound. And if you don't, you pay the price. Ollie now paranoia ready. Knows that the dark cover will dissipate, so they will fall back. A little bit of help from moves. There's a tripwire cleared, and Ian, who's been stand out. And I mentioned this is what your Vice has to do for this map on offense. They have to be a lone prowler. They have to be such a strong facilitator of success individually, let alone alongside the team. Gets there one once again. And the team will now move in towards A with the Viper's toxic screen. Can close off that link split, and with a snake bite as well, you should have a free access in towards the A site through Garden. We only have to worry about Nasi, who, yeah, can keep you back, and you're worried about the Odin. It gets taken from their hands using the Rose Garden.
Oh, all ultimates coming out on this round now. Rose Garden ultimate trying to jam any of the opponent's weapons. Moves will find the pick onto Hijinks. And this is going to be up to Ian. See if they can get that lurk pick. They find the first. Can they get one on Ali as well? No, they rotate because the spike has not been down. It was all a fake. There's a free C site, and they know it. Jeffy lurking back, finds the pick onto Nasi as well. So much map control right now by Jeffy. Finds the pick onto Moves too. Ali suddenly finding themselves in the 1v3, unable to find anything because Jeffy finds them instead. Another go-ahead round coming out for the side of Harrisburg.
I just love Viper so much on the offense for this map. Viper and Vice on offense, which are two very defensive-driven agents, right? Somehow come alive on offense. Your Viper can almost solo hold on to the A site. You see that there on your minimap, even just early, that they were left. Jeffy sitting inside A lobby, waiting for the team, trying to come to a decision. Toxic screen there. Get poke and prodded occasionally, but doesn't have to do much. And even if the team makes a ton of noise towards C or makes a lot of impact in waves in B, they can just walk out through A and have that secondary link play because they can solo snake bite out link door. They could break it, toxic screen it, not have to worry about seeing it visually. All of these things make Viper so effective by their lonesome. And then when you know that they want to be alone, it goes above and beyond. You'll let them be alone and leave them on the A site like you did just last round. As the overdrive comes out for Infiltrator, it gets nothing. Huso, yes, got hurt, but man, oh man, you got actually nothing, and your team is now left with one player less, still stuck inside A main, and the team can just take the heavy-handed rotate on over towards the C site, knowing they have that numbers advantage and just needing to deal with moves. And yeah, moves is tough, but you have a Nightfall if you really wanted to do it, and yeah, as soon as I say it, there it is. They will take this C site with all fours.
Nightfall not hitting moves, able to dodge it, but now they're gonna have to fall back unless they want to try and make a play here. Unable to find anything. Jeffy and Ian find the picks. Shadow as well contributing, and again, a team that frags together wins together, like you like to say. Shadow gets the plant down. Now Nasi finding themselves in the 1v5. Dark Cloud's gonna come out, and they will definitely have to save for match point right now.
You're not fighting a 1v5 in the first place. Not even Nasi, who I still think is the best initiator in all of Collegiate. It's very hard to find an initiator with as much experience, as much depth of knowledge, and as much cohesiveness with any team, let alone just with this Winthrop roster. But you just can't ask a player like this to go for a 1v5. And there's so much eco still available overall for this Harrisburg side. They'd like to dismantle even more for Winthrop. And that's going to bring the question, now that you're a match and series point, might I add, 12-10 after winning 13-6 on Haven, what do you do? What changes in for Winthrop? How do you fix the glaring problem? I'm likely to see a Winthrop timeout. They have theirs still available for the second half, right? I'm not crazy, right?
Yeah, they definitely have their timeout. Have not used a single timeout so far in this match. You desperately need it now or you're going to get sent to lowers. You just invested everything in that round. A high powered ultimate like overdrive and not able to find anything of it. I think this aggression that's coming out from Winthrop, they're not really able to take the control that they need, especially on a mount. I mean, a Rebel. They are able to do that on mount, but at this point, Harrisburg is not interested in hitting C at all. As we see now, a bit of a broken buy coming out from the side of Winthrop. They have to get aggressive with these weapons. At least that's what you think. but they're opting not to because they want to switch the momentum up just a little bit, or switch the pacing, my bad, to try and hold sites together. But we see Nasi by themselves with just a Stinger getting cleared out by the Prowler as Suso just double satchels in, finds the opening kill. This is going to allow them to get the plant down, and Hijinks finding yet another as well. And this is just going from bad to worse on the side of Winthrop.
Yeah, I mean, even on top, Jeffy was just one pip away from if they grabbed the Opal Orb, they would have ultimate. The Viper's Pit would be online. Their win condition is so deep. The depth of their ability to dismantle Winthrop was so high that there's just nothing to overcome. It's only Flare remaining, flanked now from both ends. They're watching defenders spawn from up above on ropes, and two that were down below on stairs, but eventually Jeffy will push into their last stand, and Flare has tried to make the comeback, but you're no Shadow, no 4K for you. And Harrisburg will come away the victor. Much closer storyline, all right, than we saw on map 1, but they just upset the #1 seed throughout VAL champs in a pretty big fashion, not only on their map pick, on a map that they're very good at, that being Winthrop being very good at, but also on Winthrop's map pick that they're also very good at. And we had a lot of expectations for them coming into this one, and man, oh man, we were disappointed, but also pleasantly surprised what a team Storm is becoming.
Yeah, Storm able to maintain their 100% win rate on Lotus so far in 2025. Very impressive against a team like Winthrop as well. And finally, Harrisburg is able to come up with the win against Winthrop against their head-to-heads. And I really want to point out something in round 21 where this was, it was very similar to the previous round, where they were trying to rotate after making so much noise in Tree and Garden and taking A site. This time, even after losing their Omen, the Viper finally had the Toxins to give them cover, and Ian was in such a deep flank position that it definitely made sense this time for them to rotate. Previously, before, Ian was never in position and nothing was covering them on their rotate, but now with that Toxic Screen, it allowed Jeffy to just hold back onto A, and he was able to get 2 picks for a beautiful go-ahead round, getting their 11.
And it did feel like Iron was finally let off the leash a little bit in the second half when you started to see Harrisburg stop making the same egregious mistakes over and over again, right? Ian was being this main factor for it. 2 kills in a rush through from B main, because why are Flare and Initiator just going in like that? Like, why are they pushing so heavy-handed like that? Ian's good for it. Turn it around the other way. Ollie sitting in back towards Waterfall. Where is the turnaround? Well, Ian's right here and Ollie's down because they couldn't play from Waterfall and you're peeking down B main. These individual players, and we'll see it for the player stats when they're ready to go, that it's so obvious to point out the glaring issues, and Harrisburg just weren't really having as many of those issues. A team that frags together wins together, and it never felt like there was a major glaring gap. There was some cohesiveness issues between your Vice and your Viper. I talked a little bit, they both can kind of hold their own points, and the team was really wanting to hit the C side, and that was falling apart because, wow, Moops was playing a ridiculously good second map in comparison to their first. They were targeting him still, it still was hitting the C site consistently. But Moves was holding it down and getting away with crazy 2 kills, then 3 kills, and still standing to help the team with the remainder of it. That was just the big difference, I think, between map 1 and 2, was instead of it being the whole team going crazy, you let 2 players kind of lead the foray, even if they weren't top kill leaders, but we'll see as the scoreboard comes up. But even just as leaders to evolve your offense throughout these rounds, and even just make the stamp and the press the button in that final round to say, we want A, we know what we can do here, whether it be the Viper's Pit ult or just rushing them down, and we knew they had to save, so they're likely in a thrifty. Let's go for it.
Yeah, beautifully done on the side of Harrisburg. I think this came down to which team was able to execute better, to be honest. I don't think I ever saw a 1v1 fight coming out from the side of Harrisburg. It was always like a buddy system for however it worked. Utility was there swinging together. It really just felt like the setup that we were praising Nasi for, right? They just weren't able to help out Infiltrator as much as they usually do, because this is a duo they played together for a long time. And these are guys that clear out sites, that hold sites by themselves, get aggressive on defense. It just really didn't work that way. I think today, Harrisburg, we see them make the change in that second half. They took those fights early against Winthrop, and we're getting punished for it. They did not have an answer for this duo until they decided to slow it down, until they decided to let Winthrop utilize all their utility to try and take aggressive rebel control. just to no avail. No information, no picks. Now the Viper wall goes up, and it's a whole another monster of paranoia and anxiety to wonder where is this team going, right? We didn't have any weak side flank to get any information. They didn't have anything, and it's just that slow paced coming out from Harrisburg that just caused so much worry for Winthrop, and they utilized so much early utility that they were unable to stop the flood when it evidently came.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at those player stats, and then we can talk a little bit more about the individuals through it. I love what you mentioned there about playing really aggressive if you were on Winthrop to try to get into the face of Jeffy inside a lobby and just taking control of Mound and Pillar. That worked for a little bit, but then they started to notice that, well, when we do this, we have no one towards B, and that leaves Ollie alone in a 1v1 against Ian. And yeah, Ollie had 20 kills. They were their top fragger, but every time they would face off against Ian was consistently doing better in those fights. And so it turned into this, well, we've just lost our controller, and now our retakes are pretty much completely useless because, yeah, we can throw a Cypher Cage down, and that's good for C-Site, but it's good for nowhere else. There's nowhere to get it out in space effectively that works for the team for a retake. And turn that over to Shadow. Shadow went 24-11 as an initiator. Again, you're letting these players off the leash, and whether it's off, letting them off and being the driving force for success like Ian and like you saw that your Viper do, right? Jeffy, whether that be letting them off and letting them do their own thing as you should on Lotus, or letting them go off the leash and get kills, doesn't matter. They win, they find themselves happy and content with it, and you just shut down the #1 seed in all of CVAL champs and just relegate them down to the lower bracket.
Yeah, well done from Harrisburg. Moving on to the uppers semifinals, where I think they will be facing up against Texas A&M, last year's winners. It's going to be a tough match, but if you were already able to upset the #1 seed, I mean, if I'm Harrisburg, I'm riding high on confidence right now, Scott.
Yeah, especially considering that Texas A&M were kind of having a tumultuous season prior to this point, right? They weren't doing super great. They were doing fine. They weren't as, they were kind of this dark horse that we were like, they were previous winners. But then there was not a lot of expectation for them, and they've kind of come through, but there's still a lot to look at them and be like, we can work on it. And Winthrop, I think Harrisburg just did their homework way more than we saw Winthrop do, especially for a team that's so good about adapting. I didn't really see nearly enough of that. Obviously more on that too, but just not enough to get those little bit of those rounds back to claw their way in and to stay alive on Haven, for goodness sake. That scoreline was so lopsided. I was never anticipating that. But that is all we have here for today's broadcast. Thank you very much for tuning into the College Championship RSAA. It has been a pleasure having you in for this Valorant side. My name is Infinite, joined here by Jackson. We've got all of our producers and staff behind the scenes. Shout out to Saints Gaming for having us on their stream once again. And we'll be back tomorrow with more from us, as I believe we start to check out some more of those lower matches. And we'll have 2 BO3s to show for it. Stay tuned for that. See you guys there.